She smiled. My baby has a father, but my son discovered a hidden truth that changed everything. In a cozy suburban town where the sun always seemed to smile, Sarah painted the perfect picture of resilience. With a bright smile and a heart full of hope, she wiped down the counter of her local diner, always greeting customers as if they were family. Yet behind that warm facade lay the aching reality of her life as a dedicated single mother. Her husband, a veteran who once held dreams of grandeur, had vanished into the unknown, leaving behind a gaping hole in the family structure. It was just her and Tommy now. Little Tommy, with his shiny brown eyes and vibrant laugh, often questioned why his father was absent. "Mom, why can't I see him?" he'd ask, perched on the edge of his bed in their small apartment, curiosity bubbling in his voice. Every night Sarah would smile, wrapping her arms around him tightly. "Oh, sweetie, your dad loves you more than anything." It was a comforting lie, one she believed could hold them together. But that sunny afternoon after the soccer game, where joy painted the air with laughter, Sarah felt the urge to share something from the past. As they sat together in the fading sunlight, she recounted the day Tommy was born, the joy, the tears of happiness, the way his father had held both of them and said, "We're a family." It was a story filled with love and warmth, illuminating the darkness that had tangled their lives. Tommy snuggled close, each word adding layers to the image of his father he desired to hold on to. Yet that warmth found itself suffocated the next day. In the cramped school hallway, Tommy overheard snippets of a conversation that shattered the illusion. "Did you hear? His dad left because he couldn't handle being a father." One boy jeered while another added, "Yeah, he's just a loser." Each word pierced through Tommy like a dagger, and a heavy weight settled in his chest. The comforting tales of love crumbled under the stark reality of shame and absence, making his heart ache for clarity. Sarah went about her routines, tending to their home and engaging with the community that sometimes whispered behind closed doors. "Look at that poor woman," a neighbor would murmur, "doing it all alone." Yet, despite the pity, she pressed on, buoyed by the hugs from Tommy and small acts of kindness around her. But she sensed his distance. Conversations grew shorter, smiles became rare, and the bond once glittering began to dim. One fateful afternoon, words erupted between Tommy and a group of classmates. They mocked him for his family situation, laughing as confusion turned to anger. In that moment, Sarah knew it was time to act, to show Tommy the depth of their love and fight for their place in this tight-knit community that often judged harshly. "Tommy," she called one night, the glow of their modest lamp illuminating her serious face. "It's not about their whispers, it's about us." She took his hands. "You're my everything. We can get through this." Just as hope began to flicker, a loud knock echoed through their apartment, shaking their world once more. Sarah opened the door, her heart racing. A stranger stood there, a familiar face washed in surprise. In that moment, the air thickened with secrets, and the potential for healing or heartbreak loomed closer than ever. What lay ahead could change everything they thought they knew about the bonds of family, leaving Tommy and Sarah standing at the edge of an emotional precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. Sarah blinked in confusion, her heart racing as she stood face to face with a figure from the past. The tall man on her doorstep looked different, older, and more worn than she remembered. But the eyes, those piercing blue eyes, were unmistakable. It was David, her husband, the one who had left a void in their lives. "Sarah," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I know this is unexpected." "Unexpected?" Sarah interrupted, her voice a mixture of disbelief and anger. "You have no idea what unexpected means." Tommy, peeking out from behind Sarah's leg, sensed the tension in the air. He saw the stranger's eyes fall on him, a blend of regret and longing etched on his face. Tommy's stomach churned. He didn't know who this man was, but instinctively, he felt the weight of everything that had been left unsaid. "Can I come in?" David asked after a long pause, his eyes darting nervously from Sarah to Tommy. Sarah hesitated, weighing her emotions. The whirlwind of feelings, betrayal, anger, a flicker of hope battled within her. She took a deep breath and stepped aside. "Fine. But you have a lot of explaining to do." They moved to the small living room, and Sarah took a seat on the worn couch, her heart pounding. Tommy sat on the floor, fiddling with a toy, trying to process the change in his world. For a moment they sat in silence, the tension thick like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Why now?" Sarah finally asked, her voice steady but low, betraying her hurt. After all this time, David ran a hand through his hair, visibly struggling to find his words. It's complicated. I had my reasons for leaving. He began, but Sarah shook her head, urging him to get to the point. Her patience fraying. I found out I was ill, he continued, his voice cracking. I had to get my life together. I didn't know how to be a father back then. I was scared and I thought leaving would make things easier. I was wrong. Tommy looked up, curiosity burning in his eyes as he listened. Had this man left because of him? Because he was afraid? Scared of what? Sarah pressed, fury mixed with a hint of sadness. Scared of responsibility? Of being a family? David stared at the floor, guilt written on his face. Of being a disappointment? I thought I could come back when I was better. But I didn't. The admission hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. Tommy's small hands tightened around his toy as he absorbed the weight of his father's absence. He could feel the air thick with emotions he didn't fully understand: rage, hope, and a longing to connect. Do you want to know your son? David finally asked, looking at Tommy, his voice unsteady but filled with determination. 'Cause I want to be here now. I want to make things right. Tommy's heart raced, caught in a current of conflicting feelings. You want to know me? He asked, his voice almost a whisper. I do, David replied, his eyes earnest. I want to be the dad I should have been. The reality of the moment struck Sarah hard. She felt torn between the past that had shaped their lives and the hope for a future that was still uncertain. Could they truly rebuild? Could David find a way to become the father Tommy needed? As the room hung in silence, they were all waiting for a resolution, each search for answers painted with uncertainty. Would they dare to trust again after all that had happened? The next step remained unclear, and Tommy glanced from his father to his mother, longing for an answer. Just then, the door creaked slightly, and in walked their neighbor Mrs. Ellis, holding a grocery bag and oblivious to the tension building in the room. Hey Io! She exclaimed, her eyes widening as she took in the scene. Caught off guard by her sudden arrival, they each reacted. Sarah's face transformed to shock, David's to anxiety, and Tommy's to hope. Could their picture-perfect world shatter, or rebuild in an instant with someone else's arrival? The question loomed large. Was their family truly ready for this unexpected twist? Mrs. Ellis froze, struggling to make sense of the scene before her. She looked from Sarah to David, her expression shifting from surprise to concern. Is everything okay? She asked, her voice softening. Sarah felt her heart sink. This was not how she wanted anyone to find out. Not like this, with David standing right there, claiming rights he had abandoned. But Tommy, sensing the tension, stood up and walked over to David with a look of curiosity mixed with fear. It's okay, Mrs. Ellis, Tommy said, a brave smile forming on his lips. This is my dad. He just came back. His innocence cut through the tension like a knife, leaving Sarah speechless. His small declaration echoed through the room, increasing the sense of vulnerability. For a moment, David's hardened demeanor softened as he crouched to meet Tommy's gaze. Yeah, he said, his voice shaking a little. I'm back, buddy. I want to get to know you. I want to know you too. Tommy replied with earnestness, but there was a flicker of uncertainty lingering at the edges of his voice. He turned to Sarah as if seeking permission, and that instinctive motion pulled at Sarah's heartstrings. It was a simple yet profound moment, a son reaching for a father. Mrs. Ellis shifted her weight uncomfortably. Well, I wouldn't want to interrupt, she said quickly, her eyes darting between the family. But I brought you some things. Thought you might need them with everything going on. She held out the grocery bag, trying to ease the tension. Instead of trying to take it from her, Sarah stood, her heart pounding. Thank you, Mrs. Ellis. She hesitated. This is a lot to take in. Staring at David, the reality of their situation settled heavily on her chest. I'm not sure we're ready for company right now. David stood, his eyes pleading. Sarah, please. I know I messed up. I need time to make things right with you, with Tommy. Just give me that chance. His voice dropped, becoming a whisper, full of emotion. I gave you chances before, Sarah said sharply. What's different now? Maybe it's realizing what I've lost, David replied. I can't change the past, but I can be here now. Tommy deserves a dad, and I want to be that dad. His gaze shifted back to Tommy, who watched with wide, hopeful eyes. Mrs. Ellis, sensing the gravity of the situation, began to back away slowly. "Well, I'll just leave this here." She set down the bag, offering a supportive smile before making her way to the door. "Take care. I'm just next door if you need anything." As soon as the door clicked shut, the air grew thick again. Tommy glanced back at his mother, his face questions. "Mom, can he stay?" Sarah felt her heart twist. Tommy's question dug deep, rattling old wounds. "It's complicated," she replied, her voice catching. "Complicated," David echoed, frustration seeping into his tone. "I get it. But life is complicated. I want to be a part of yours. I want to try." Looking at Tommy and then back at David, time folded into itself. The moment felt both heavy with history and overflowing with possibility. Sarah was caught between wanting to protect Tommy and the flicker of hope David's return ignited. "Maybe we need time to figure this out," she finally said firmly. "I can't promise anything." But Tommy didn't care about the complications. His eyes sparkled with excitement. "Dad, can we build a fort together? Can we do fun things?" David's face lit up with emotion, a mix of joy and sorrow. "I would love that." As hope washed over the room, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this renewed connection could either lead to healing or more heartbreak. Could they really navigate the storm of emotions together? The stage was set for something possibly beautiful, but the risks remained. What would happen when reality came crashing back? What would they discover about each other and themselves were they to truly try again? The question lingered in the air, leaving their future uncertain but achingly hopeful, as Tommy's laughter echoed, softening the jagged edges of their broken past. Did this new beginning hold a promise of what they could truly become? Sarah watched as David knelt down to Tommy, the tension in the room slowly transforming into something lighter. The earnest eagerness in Tommy's eyes only magnified her mixed feelings about this unexpected reunion. Could he be a father this time? Or was it just a fleeting moment of good intentions? "Can we build the fort now, Dad?" Tommy bounced on his feet, his excitement bubbling over. The innocence of his request struck a chord in Sarah's heart. It was the very thing she had hoped for Tommy, that connection to a father that could help him feel whole. David smiled warmly, a new kind of determination rising within him. "Let us do it." He turned towards her, his expression hopeful, seeking approval. "If that's okay with you?" Sarah crossed her arms, feeling a protective instinct flare. "Let us take it slow, all right? You just walked back into our lives after years. We have a lot to work through." David nodded, perhaps understanding the weight of her words more than she realized. He reached out a hand to Tommy, who took it eagerly, pulling David up from his crouching position. For a moment, Sarah watched as they began to rush towards the living room, the prospect of building a fort igniting a spark of joy in Tommy's spirit. But the worry gnawed at her. The good memories were tied together with the shadows of the past. What if David hurt them again? What if this was all just a game to him? As she listened to their laughter, a mixture of emotions surged within her. Hope danced alongside fear, each competing for dominance. Would this attempt at fatherhood mean something different this time? In the living room, Tommy was already rifling through cushions, dragging them haphazardly into a pile. "Come on, Dad. We need more. Can you get the blankets?" His voice was bright, full of life. David, who had clearly never been the staying type, now moved around the room with a sense of purpose. "Absolutely," he replied, enthusiasm coursing through his words. Watching them from the doorway, Sarah felt a tightening in her chest, a blend of longing and dread. The image of David being a caring father was everything she had wished for her son. But after everything, could she trust him to stay? Just then the doorbell rang, jolting her thoughts. She opened the door to find Mrs. Ellis standing there again, visibly concerned. "I just wanted to check in. Is everything all right?" "Yes, it's fine," Sarah responded, forcing a smile, though her voice shook slightly. "David and Tommy are getting acquainted." Mrs. Ellis raised an eyebrow, sensing the underlying tension. "You know I'm here for you if you need anything, don't you?" This could be a powerful moment for both of them. What if it doesn't work? Sarah blurted out, vulnerability cracking her facade. What if he leaves again? What if Tommy gets hurt? Mrs. Ellis stepped forward, reaching out to touch Sarah's arm gently. You can't control everything. Sometimes you have to let people in, Sarah. Even if it scares you. With those words hanging heavily in the air, Sarah's heart raced. Part of her wanted to hurl caution to the wind and embrace this new chance, while another part warned her to build walls against impending heartbreak. As she stepped back into the living room, she saw David and Tommy, lost in their fort-building world, sharing laughter that warmed the entire room. Could it be possible to step into the future while still carrying the scars of the past? The ringing of laughter swirled around her, wrapping her in layers of conflicting emotions. She had to make a choice: to forgive and let them discover a relationship, however fragile, or to shield Tommy from the potential pain that could come if David faltered again. "Mom, come help us," Tommy called, drawing her back to the present, his voice bright with excitement. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped closer, uncertainty still swirling in her heart but hope slowly rising. Would she be able to dive into this chaotic journey of family with faith? The moment felt pivotal, as if the quiet knock of fate was beginning to unveil possibilities she thought lost, but lurking just beneath the surface. Unanswered questions glimmered. Would their fragile new beginning withstand the trials that awaited them? Sarah approached the living room, a hesitant smile forming on her lips as she watched David and Tommy. Cushions were strewn everywhere, blankets draped precariously over the furniture, creating a fortress of make-believe. Tommy's delight was palpable as he commanded David like a ship's captain. "More pillows, Dad. We need to protect the treasure." Tommy giggled, his imagination painting bright pictures in the air. Sarah couldn't help but feel a swell of warmth at the sight. Could this be real? Could David truly be committed this time? David glanced up at Sarah, catching her gaze for a moment. There was something different in his eyes, clarity mixed with determination, a promise unspoken. But before she could decipher it, Tommy's laughter filled the space again, piercing the moment like a joyful arrow shot into the air. "Let us put the dragon by the entrance," Tommy said excitedly, chucking a stuffed animal towards the makeshift entrance of their fort. "Great idea," David replied, his voice bright and full of life in a way that hadn't been there before. It stirred something within Sarah, a feeling she thought she'd buried deep. Yet as she joined them, her mind raced with doubts. This couldn't last. It felt too perfect. "Can I be the brave knight?" Tommy shouted, wrapping a blanket around his shoulders like a cape. "Of course, the bravest of them all," David cheered, and it sent a flutter in Sarah's chest. Yet the thought crept in again. What was it worth? It took everything in her not to clamp down on that hope. As Sarah knelt beside them, holding up a blanket, interlacing their fingers into the fabric of togetherness, Tommy looked up at her. "Mom, can you help us defend the treasure?" Her heart melted at the utter trust in his voice. "Absolutely," she whispered, her doubts tucked away for another moment, allowing herself to live in the joy shining brightly in front of her. There was laughter, and they constructed walls with colorful pillows while David spun stories of knights and dragons, his voice melodic and engaging. Time felt suspended and Sarah allowed the warmth to fill her, despite the shadows lurking. But beneath the glimmering surface, not everything was perfect. The silence that sometimes fell too heavy when laughter faded still lived there, a reminder of the unhealed scars left behind in the wake of David's past choices. Sarah felt a twinge of unease, but she pushed it aside for Tommy's sake. As they worked together, David suddenly stopped, suspicion flickering across his face as he rifled through a box. "What's this?" he murmured, holding up an old dusty album that had somehow slipped to the bottom. Tommy rushed over curiously. "Can we look at it?" Before Sarah could answer, David opened it. The sight made her stomach knot. Photos captured moments of a past long gone, memories of holidays, fun times, and love lost. A picture of Sarah and David smiling brightly at a summer barbecue. It was as if time pulled the past into the present, and suddenly she felt as if she were tumbling back into those earlier days. "I remember this," Tommy exclaimed, pointing at the picture. David stared intently at the image, his brow furrowing. "Did you ever show this to him, Sarah?" A tightness formed in her throat. "Not exactly," she whispered. "There's so much I don't know." Tommy's innocent voice trailed off, piercing through the quiet. The weight of their past loomed suddenly larger than the fort itself, and her chest constricted with an ache. Was it truly fair to pull them deeper into these memories? Could this fragile moment hold under the strain of what it could mean? Maybe we should focus on the now, Sarah suggested softly, her heart racing with the tension brewing. But as David flipped through the pages, unaware of the turmoil inside her, a familiar fear arose. What hidden truths were still buried away that Tommy might unearth? What if, instead of mending their family, they unraveled it with revelations best left untouched? Why don't we read a story from it? David proposed, looking hopeful. The three sat amid old memories, the air heavy with unsaid thoughts. As they turned the pages, Sarah felt a chill, realizing the past didn't just whisper, it screamed for attention. What would this moment reveal about their journey ahead? And just when she thought they might find comfort in these memories, a single thought reverberated louder than the laughter. Would this push them closer, or tear them apart once again? David's fingers brushed over the pages of the photo album, each picture an echo of laughter that felt both familiar and distant. The room breathed quietly, as if it were holding its breath, waiting to see how the moment would unfold. Tommy, caught up in a whirlwind of curiosity, leaned closer, scanning the images with wide eyes that couldn't comprehend the layers of history behind them. Is that us at the park? Look how tiny I was, he declared, his excitement bubbling over, blissfully unaware of the tension curling at the edges of the room. Yeah, that was a great day, Sarah managed, forcing a smile as she watched the joy dance across her child's face. But the moment felt like quicksand beneath her. The more they delved into the album, the deeper she sank into the memories that made her heart ache. David's eyes lingered on a photo where Sarah was leaning against a tree, a carefree smile illuminating her face. You look so happy here, he said softly, almost to himself. I was, she replied, her voice fading into the background as the memory enveloped her. She remembered that day vividly, the sound of children playing, the sun kissing her cheeks, and the laughter that came so easily then. Tommy pointed to another picture. What's this, Dad? David chuckled as he recognized the scene, a candid shot of him and Sarah splashing water at each other during a summer day in the pool, joy written all over their faces. That was our first summer together. You were just a little baby, Tommy. As David spoke, Sarah felt her resolve slip a little. She could see the tenderness in his eyes, the spark that had been dimmed for so long. Could it be that he was reaching out, trying to bridge the chasm between them? But then a knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. Is that why you left? Tommy's innocent question shattered the fragile atmosphere. Sarah's heart raced as she shot a glance at David, who looked as though he had been struck by lightning. The laughter faded and silence wrapped around them like a heavy cloak. Tommy, that is... It's complicated, David stammered, his gaze shifting between his son and Sarah. Why? Tommy pressed, tilting his head. You seem so happy here. Why would anything change? The way Tommy eyed them both, full of bewilderment and deep-seated curiosity, pulled at Sarah's heart. She felt the weight of the truth pressing down on her. The truth they had danced around for so long. There are things from the past that we're still figuring out, buddy, Sarah said softly, hoping to shield him. But I want to know. Tommy persisted, his brows knitting together. The plea in his voice was potent, revealing his need to understand his family's story, the one they seemed to dance around rather than confront. David exhaled sharply, the tension crackling in the air. Sometimes there are reasons why things happen the way they did. I'm just scared? Tommy interjected, his little voice slicing through the room with clarity and innocence. It's okay to be scared. I'm scared about a lot of things like dragons and monsters. David's lips pulled into a ghost of a smile. Yeah, buddy, it is okay to be scared. They sat there, an unseen rift widening, as Tommy's earnestness shaped the moment. Could a child truly bridge the gaps adults created? As realization settled in, Sarah felt the tension evolve into something different. It was the beginning of an awareness, a shift that pushed her forward. Tommy, understanding the past helps us know each other better, she ventured, her words coming out steadier than she felt. But it doesn't have to define us. A shadow of doubt still lingered in the corners of her mind, but as she looked into David's eyes, searching for a spark, something new emerged within her. Maybe they could face these hidden truths together. So, can we talk about it? Tommy asked, his voice brimming with sincerity. Sarah glanced at David and felt the weight of expectations hanging between them, woven with the threads of uncertainty. Maybe we should. With that, the real work began. As they sat encircled in the fort, tucked amid the fabric of family, She could already see the implications of what lay ahead, the delicate dance between past and present. What would emerge as they delved deeper? Would they find the courage to confront the things that had torn them apart? And as that last question hung in the air, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the truth, no matter how painful, was ready to claw its way to the surface. The silence in the room thickened, pressing against Sarah's chest. As he watched his parents, Tommy's innocent curiosity clashed with the unease that rippled between them. Sarah could feel it, the fragile balance was tipping. "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" she asked, her voice wavering slightly. She could feel David's eyes on her, questioning, waiting. It became painfully clear that this wasn't just a conversation about their past. It was about the future, theirs and Tommy's. "Why did you really leave?" Tommy asked again, his tone firm yet innocent. "You guys seemed so happy together in those pictures." David swallowed hard, his throat tight. "It's not as simple as that, son. But we can try to explain," Sarah interjected, her heart racing. "Tommy, sometimes things happen that we don't fully understand. Your dad and I," she hesitated, weighing her words carefully. "We've been through a lot." "Like what?" Tommy pressed. David leaned closer, his voice steadying. "There were misunderstandings. Things I didn't handle well. I thought space would help everyone. Didn't it?" Tommy's eyes widened, searching their faces. "No," Sarah admitted, her heart clenching as she met David's gaze. "It made things worse. But we're trying to figure it out." She reached over, squeezing Tommy's hand, anchoring him in this storm of emotions. "Did I make you leave?" Tommy asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "No," David exclaimed, urgency filling his words. "Never. You were the best thing that ever happened to us. I was scared, that's all." "Scared of what?" Tommy narrowed his eyes, a mix of confusion and frustration knitting his brow. "Of not being enough," David admitted, the words spilling out. "Of failing you and your mom." Tension wrapped around them, but Sarah felt a flicker of something optimistic behind her doubt. Maybe this was the moment they could finally begin unraveling their truth. "Sometimes," she said gently, "facing what scares us helps us grow stronger." "Like being brave against dragons?" Tommy asked, the corners of his mouth twitching into a smile. "Exactly like that." David laughed, the air lightening just a fraction. "We all have our dragons to face." Tommy thought for a moment, then with a sudden seriousness he asked, "Are you two ever going to be happy again?" The question hung in the air like an unlit lantern, casting shadows on their hearts. Sarah felt the weight of everything they had yet to face colliding with the glimmer of hope that lived within her. Could they really find their way back to each other? "I don't know," David replied softly, his honest vulnerability out in the open. "But I want to try." "So do I," Tommy exclaimed, his excitement brightening the room. "If we all try, we can be happy. Right?" "Right," Sarah echoed, her heart swelling with both fear and encouragement. As they sat huddled together, a tiny fort made of hopes and uncertainties, Sarah felt something shift again. This was just the beginning of unraveling the tangled threads of their family. They had faced one question, but countless others lay in wait. "Can we start with the hardest part?" Tommy asked, his voice firm. "The part that made it all so complicated?" Sarah and David exchanged a glance filled with an unspoken understanding, an acceptance of the journey before them. "Okay," David said, taking a deep breath. "Let us talk about it." And as they dove in, the truth began to stretch out like a long shadow. What would surface from those hidden depths? Would facing the pain lead to healing? Or would it crack open old wounds that had yet to heal? But she couldn't help but wonder, was this the moment that would change everything for them? Tommy's question hung heavy in the air, the kind of silence that fills a room before a storm. David ran a hand through his hair, his eyes darting to Sarah. She looked back at him, urging, pleading for courage. It was as if they were standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to take the plunge into the deep unknown. "Let us start with the truth," David finally said, his voice steady. "The hardest part is the reason why things fell apart." Tommy's brows knitted together, the innocence of childhood clashing with the reality that shadows his family. "What do you mean?" Sarah took a breath, her chest tight. "It was all a mix of choices that hurt us. Things we thought were for the best." David nodded, gaining momentum. "There was a time when our love was strong and everything felt right. But then life threw challenges at us." His voice dropped to a whisper. I made mistakes. Big ones. What kind of mistakes? Tommy's voice trembled slightly with concern. Sarah leaned closer to him, sensing his anxiety. We were lost, sweetheart. We didn't know how to ask for help. I thought I could handle it all alone. Like having a dragon in the closet, Tommy said quietly, recalling their earlier conversation. Exactly, buddy. David's brow furrowed, his gaze locked onto Tommy's. But some dragons are scarier than others. A lump formed in Sarah's throat. You were so young, Tommy. We never wanted to put any of this on you. But you did, Tommy murmured, his voice barely audible. He looked back and forth between his parents, searching for clarity amongst their tangled emotions. Never would we blame you, David replied, his heart aching. You were the light in our confusion. We both loved you fiercely. But then what happened? The question breathed life into the silence. Tommy needed to know. David paused, weighed down by the weight of the past. I pushed Sarah away out of fear. I thought if we took a break, I could face my faults alone and find a way to fix them. So you ran? Tommy asked, his tone incredulous. Not ran, son. I thought it was a step back to take a leap forward. David's eyes glistened. But all I did was lose what mattered most. Tears came unbidden to Sarah's eyes. And that hurt us all, especially you. Tommy wrinkled his nose, trying to process. But you're trying now? His small voice brimmed with hope. Yes, we are. David nodded, determination creeping back into his words. We're here sitting together because we want to fix this. Together. There was a flicker of understanding on Tommy's face. So we're not broken. Maybe a little cracked, Sarah smiled through her tears, but cracks let the light in, right? Tommy considered this, his gaze shifting to the small window where sunlight streamed in. So what do we do next? Holding her breath, Sarah felt a flicker of hope surge inside her. Next we share our feelings. We talk about our fears. We become a family in a way we haven't been allowed to be yet. Yes, David affirmed, his voice gaining strength. We confront the truth with courage. Tommy's eyes widened. Does that mean I can ask anything? Like really anything? Sarah chuckled softly. Even the hard questions. And I have one, Tommy said, steel in his voice. About the girl I overheard you two arguing about. The air thickened again. Tension woven into the fabric of their reunion. Sarah's heart pounded, and David shifted uncomfortably, what lay beneath the surface threatening to rise. What girl? Sarah whispered, the weight of the moment settling heavily between them, as if the dragon had awakened from its slumber. Caught between revelations and wounds yet to heal, they sensed that this question, tucked away like a secret, could unravel them all over again. Would the truth bring them closer, or tear the fragile threads of their newfound connection apart? David felt the air shift, each breath feeling heavier than the last. The accusation laced in Tommy's voice echoed like a haunting melody, stirring murky waters long left untouched. He looked to Sarah, searching for an anchor but finding only worry etched across her face. Her eyes reflected unspoken fears, thoughts swirling like a tempest inside. Tommy, David began, but the words clogged his throat. How could he even start to address this? Tommy shifted in his seat, determination solidifying in his posture. I heard you arguing about a girl. Is she someone important? Sarah's heart raced, a pulse of panic. What did you hear? Tommy frowned, sensing their tension. Just stuff that you both sounded really upset about her. His small fingers twisted anxiously on his lap. David exchanged a glance with Sarah, feeling the weight of their histories pressing down on them. It's complicated, son. There's a lot I never explained. Tommy tilted his head slightly, his brow furrowing as he tried to piece together this jigsaw of emotions. But what was she to you? A friend? More? More. That word hung heavily, and in that instant, David felt all the years of mistakes surge forward. He could see it in his son's eyes, the need for honesty mingled with the deep desire to protect his innocence. She was a moment of weakness. I lost sight of what mattered and let distractions cloud my judgment. Like a dragon? Tommy said softly, the image of the figurative beast rising in his mind again. Yes. David swallowed hard, his heart aching. Like a dragon I thought I could tame but ended up letting it loose. There was a silence that stretched. A moment where emotions danced in the air, unfiltered and raw. Tommy's small hands clenched tightly, his feelings shifting from confusion to anger. Did you love her? David's soul felt like it fractured under that powerful question. No. I loved your mother and I still do. But I got lost, Tommy. I thought that running from my problems would help clear my mind. I was selfish. Tears glinted in Sarah's eyes. We both made choices that hurt each other, but you need to know love doesn't just disappear. It transforms. But love shouldn't hurt, Tommy replied, his voice trembling with emotion. You were supposed to protect us. To keep us safe. Sarah reached out, her hand gently resting on Tommy's. Sweetheart, we're trying to fix things now, to be the family we're meant to be even if it takes time. A flicker of trust reappeared in Tommy's gaze, but shadows lingered. So what will happen next? Desperation clashed with hope. David leaned in, his voice calm but firm. We talk. All of us. No more hiding, no more secrets. We face those dragons together. Tommy considered this, his expression softening ever so slightly as he nodded. But what about the girl? David took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the truth. She won't be part of our lives anymore. I've learned my lesson from that. I need to focus on what matters. But what if more things come up? Tommy asked, the worry creeping back in. What if I hear something else? Another dragon? Then we deal with it. Right then and there, Sarah said, her voice laced with determination. No more secrets. We promise to be open. Tommy blinked slowly, the gears in his young mind turning. You mean it? No more hiding? Yes, David promised, the weight of their past lingering at the edges, but new resolution pushing through. We'll be a family again, however long it takes. But just as hope began to settle, David felt a tremor of fear in his chest. There were still so many layers to unearth. How many more dragons waited in the darkness, and were they even prepared for what awaited them? Okay, Tommy said finally, the strength gathering in him. Then I have another question. His eyes widened and both parents braced for the impact, not yet knowing that with every question, they edged closer to the truth that might shake them all over again. What if I told you about something I found, something connected to the girl? The room became silent as Tommy's words hung heavily in the air, each second stretching into a lifetime. Sarah's heart raced, dread creeping in. She felt a knot in her stomach. Had Tommy found something more? David's sharp intake of breath echoed the sudden tension. What did you find, Tommy? Sarah urged gently, but the underlying fear laced through her voice betrayed her calm facade. A letter, he said, glancing between his parents with wide, innocent eyes. I didn't mean to snoop. I was looking for a book in the back of the closet. David's expression shifted, his brow furrowing deeply. He had hidden so many pieces of his past, and now they threatened to unravel their fragile new beginning. What did it say? His voice came out strained, as if asking the question would somehow spare him from the truth. It was from her. The words came out hesitantly, like a whisper that could shatter the moment. Sarah felt her heart drop, while a mix of anger and anxiety coursed through her veins. Tommy, what was in the letter? Tommy swallowed hard, his small hands trembling. It said you were happy, Dad, that you would be free to start a new life without us. The truth stung sharper than any knife. David's face blanched. I never wanted that for you. I never wanted this situation at all. His voice broke, raw with the weight of regret. But it felt like you wanted to leave. Tommy's eyes glistened with unshed tears, confusion bubbling beneath the surface. Why wouldn't you want to stay? Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself against the tidal wave of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. David, is that true? How could you say those things? How could you write her that you wanted? I was broken. David interjected, pain lacing his voice. I was so lost, Sarah. I didn't know how to be the man you and Tommy needed. I thought this was the only way. A heavy silence settled between them, punctuated only by the creak of the old house standing witness to their turmoil. It felt like the walls themselves were closing in, the memories crashing against their attempts at reconciliation. Tommy looked between them, fear and sadness painting his small features. But you can choose to be here now. Isn't that what you said? We can fix things? David met his son's gaze, something darker shifting inside him. Yes, we can try, but it's going to take work, Tommy. We've already broken things. I'm terrified of hurting you again. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope flickering amidst the chaos. We can't dwell on the past forever. Let us look forward. David nodded slowly, uncertainty shadowing his face. I want to build a new foundation for us, but there might be dragons lurking still. Secrets we have to confront together. Tommy's brows furrowed. So we fight them? Together? Yes, Sarah said, the fire of determination igniting inside her as she glanced at Tommy and David, both fighting their inner wars. Together. David reached for Tommy, pulling him close. You need to know my love for you has always been there. Every decision, every choice I've made, it was all to find my way back to you. Tears streamed down Tommy's cheeks, but the hint of a smile broke through. Then let's build our fort strong. We'll fight every dragon together. Sarah knelt beside them, overwhelmed with warmth. Let us make our family fort. Let us make it unbreakable. With renewed spirits, the air shifted yet again, infusing hope deep within their fragile hearts. They cleared away unspoken hurts, stepping forward into their patchwork of possibilities, the beauty of rebuilding their lives amid uncertainty blossoming around them as they began to rearrange the cushions into a sturdy fort. Laughter spilled freely in harmony, chasing the shadows away. Tommy was animated as he directed them, beaming brightly. David and Sarah worked diligently by his side, filled with a sense of purpose. Shared glances and laughter softened the barriers they'd built over the years. And as they constructed their dream fort together, they discovered a mosaic of connection, a testament against the fractures of their past lives. Hours passed unnoticed, marked only by the changing light filtering through windows. Sarah felt lighter, the weight of doubt lifting as they built their haven together. It would take time, but each moment felt like a step toward reconciliation. When their fort was finally complete, Tommy clapped his hands together, eyes bright. Our stronghold is ready. David grinned, pride settling in his gaze. Yes, and we'll protect it. No dragon shall breach our walls. As they huddled inside their makeshift castle, laughter echoed against the walls, melding the past, present, and future. With hearts intertwined, they sat together in the cozy space they had created, finding warmth in each other. Leaders in their own right, they embraced the uncertainty ahead, ready to face what lay in their path. That it was there, in that shared embrace, where they realized that hope lived not just in promises whispered but in actions taken. They were ready to unravel the knots of pain and reknit the fabric of love they once shared. Together, right? Tommy asked, his small voice a comet of conviction. Together, Sarah and David echoed in unison, a promise cemented between them, a vow to face whatever dragons awaited on the horizon. And so, amidst the laughter and childish delight, each moment became a stitch in a brighter future. Here in their fort of resilience, they began a journey toward healing and a family reborn. Together they would weave new stories, overcoming shadows from the past, ready to embrace a life filled with warmth, trust, and love. Redemption nestled in the heart of their unbreakable bond, singing a melody of hope that bloomed and multiplied like the morning sun breaking through the clouds. This was their moment, a new beginning taking root. Now, as we leave you with this inspiring conclusion, we urge you to take part in this journey too. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and show your support for genuine storytelling. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this transformative ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Remember, only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel with their actions.